Welcome into Jags A.M. today. Training camp continues. This is our 7th practice day as we enter week 2. We're midway through week 2, I should say at this point. But started last week. Things are getting good as pads went on Monday, so we got some real football to talk about.
A scrimmage in the stadium on Friday night. That's the countdown to the first preseason game a week from.
Yeah, we're into it now. I mean, it's Tuesday was the first what I consider like real training camp practice because they not only practiced in pads, they went deep. They did about 2 hours, so it felt like they were going on Tuesday, and I'm sure it felt like it's going the rest of the week too.
All right, let's go over some of our big things from the last week that we've seen at practice so far. Big thing number one is keep it clean. As we mentioned, there's new offense, new defense being installed here, and a lot of pressure being put on Trevor Lawrence. Brian, we've talked a ton about what we expect from him this season, but so far he's been keeping it clean, and he looks like he's in understanding of what this new system is going to require from him.
Well, we heard about the test that they took when they first reported and how well he did, and Liam Cohen has said all through the offseason, John, that Trevor is progressing and understanding what they're asking him to do. You'd like to see a couple of those practices where the ball never hits the ground, right? We haven't seen that yet, so it's not been entirely clean, but there's a lot to like from just the very early days of camp about where Trevor says he is and where he's showing it when he's on the practice field.
Yeah, I don't know that you need to see a no-hit-the-ground practice when they're going full like this because you sort of hope the defense makes a play or two because then you're giving up 50
I don't want them to
games.
drop it either.
So it's somebody asked me yesterday, how's Trevor look? Not spectacular, not bad. My guess is if you ask Liam Cohen away from the media, he'd be like, I'm fine with how Trevor is. He looks like he's getting it. He looks in control. He doesn't look lost. To me, if he progresses and knows what he's doing, the spectacular will come as he has knowledge and confidence in his footwork in this offense. So I'm encouraged because it looks like he's fine.
And we heard the center, Robert Hainsey, after practice on Monday talk about his command in the huddle. The way that he's holding guys accountable play to play. Some of the little things that you not expect to have to look for, but we are here in his 5th season, and it's good to hear that he's doing that.
Very good. Let's go to our second big thing, which is physicality. As we mentioned, the pads went on earlier this week. Liam Cohen weighed in on what he thought of the first day of padded practice.
I thought that the offense came out and kind of set the tone a little bit offensively in the run game throughout the course of the day. Now, there were still some good plays here and there on both sides, but it was pleased to see physicality, but taking care of one another. Like, it didn't get sloppy or stupid. It was just good quality work. We put the pads on. That doesn't mean we have to cheap shot each other or do anything ridiculous. And I thought it was just good quality work from both sides and got our first day of pads in.
John, one of your favorite days of practice. They put the pads on. They got after it for real a little bit. Saw some real football out there. It's nice to see that intensity back into the game. Yeah,
I thought you could really see it, and I don't want to overplay it, but I thought Monday was as physical a first day in pads quickly. I'm not going to say as I've ever seen because, Brian, we were there in the 90s when you saw pads go on in May. But I'm exaggerating.
But not by much.
But I thought that Liam Cohen's coming in here and he wants to establish the run. He wants to establish physicality. I thought there was a message on Monday and Tuesday. They're going to be physical. They're going to hit. It felt like real football, and I thought he was exactly right. But you didn't see him going to the ground. It felt like smart, good practice that day. It fit to me what he wants to be.
I wasn't surprised that the first live team drill was running the ball, right? I mean, in fact, I was encouraged by it because I wanted to see, with all these new people that are engaged in the offensive line, I wanted to see how they would come together in a physical sense. And listen, Travis Etienne, who's not a guy who you think of as being a physical back, was banging it up in there behind them. And Tank Bigsby, who you know is a physical guy, was showing you what he's got. And then some of the younger running backs all were able to show it too. This team has got to establish the run. We've gone over and over on that. They've been so poor, Kai, on third down and 1 or 2 yards, and it's really thrown the offense off the last 2 seasons. They've got to get it fixed, and that step on Monday looked like they're a long way towards getting it where they want to be.
Absolutely, and the offensive line is a huge part of that. We're going to talk a little bit more in depth on that later in the show. Let's do our final big thing today, though. That's missing in action. Obviously, this time of year, you get injuries. That happens. We have heard throughout the week some things that are racking up a little bit. Montaric Brown will miss the remainder of training camp with a foot injury. We've seen Patrick McCarry banged up on the offensive line. Liam Cohen talked a little bit about when those people are out, what that means for other players.
Gives us an opportunity to get guys reps. We expect them back for the season, obviously, and so gives a great op for Jarian Jones, obviously Travis, to continue to get quality reps, and Trey Prince and some of these guys to continue to get reps, Zach McPherson, and same with Christian Braswell. So it just gives us ops. Yeah, it's a bummer a little bit for Buster. I love Buster. But it is always, anytime that happens, it is completely a new window and opportunity for somebody else. So the reps are quality for us.
So unfortunately, Buster Brown will be out for training camp, but as mentioned, some other injuries around. Obviously, Mason Smith starting out the season on PUP as well, Brian, but gives extra reps to some of these other guys that we don't know quite yet.
Well, and I saw Trey Prince early on Monday, and I was banging that drum last year because he's a guy that I think has a lot of talent and can contribute, and now he's going to get an opportunity. Whether he's ready for it or not, we're going to find out. The one thing about injuries, John, is we know there's more on the way, right? When you get into the preseason games, there will be guys that get banged up. So far, nothing appears to be so serious that, you're gnashing your teeth and gripping your hands and all of that stuff, but it's football.
It's a league of attrition, but I think a positive early has been that McCarry went out. My understanding is that Chuma Edoga has played very, very well in his place. I think you're going to see during camp the after effects of what they did in the offseason on the offensive line. I thought they did a nice job of not only, filling out their first team depth chart, but getting guys in here who not only can compete, the other side of competition is being there in case there's an injury. They feel pretty deep and balanced along the offensive line. I don't know how great they're going to be. They have to prove that they're going to be a good to great offensive line, but they do feel like they have the pieces in place to withstand a few training camp injuries.
All right, stay with us here. We got a ton to talk about. We're live from training camp here at the Miller Electric Center. We're going to go over the offensive line and all of the changes when we come back after the break. Jags A.M. today brought to you by Fields Auto Group. See Fields first, Jacksonville's premier luxury auto group. Go to fieldsauto.com.
It's absolutely helpful. The flexibility of those guys to be able to fill different spots. I think you probably saw Chuma's play tackle, played some guard past couple days, and really we have a bunch of guys who can play different positions. It's a testament to their work and their ability to be able to play in those multiple spots. It's not easy to go from playing on the left side to playing on the right side, let alone from the left side outside to the right side inside. So that takes a lot of work, not only in the drill work with Coach Surratt and the rest of the staff, but from studying and knowing my calls at guard are different than my calls at tackle. So to have that group that has the flexibility mentally and physically is really nice for us to know it's a little bit of depth and security blanket, but also we can mix and match different groups of guys and see that chemistry kind of build out throughout camp.
It's your offensive coordinator, Grant Udinski, weighing in. Lots of moving parts here at training camp. We're live outside, well, inside technically, at the Miller Electric Center.
Just enough inside to get the air conditioning.
Just enough. That was very crucial to this whole outside show thing. But let's talk a little bit about, we're talking about versatility. So many of these guys that have been brought in were brought in for that. And as we mentioned, some people out with injury right now. There's some names to focus on and some new faces, so we wanted to mention. But who's a name that maybe people aren't familiar with yet or is new to the team that you think is important for them to know?
Well, John talked about him at the end of the A block, and we just heard Grant Udinski talk about Chuma Edoga. But he's a guy that is 2 years, $7 million. So he comes in and he pushes Anton Harrison all spring at right tackle. They were wanting the former first-round pick to be pushed and challenged. He did just that. He's played right tackle in Jacksonville, and now, the other day, with the injury to Patrick McCarry, has to step inside to guard. I was told by someone who knows that he is really good at a position that he hasn't played a lot. He's a guy who was a former third-round pick, Kai. Didn't work out in New York, didn't work out in Atlanta, but he found himself in Dallas, and here he is. I think he's the epitome of what they've done on the offensive line. You talked about depth. They may need him to start if Patrick McCarry isn't able to get back into the lineup soon with his back. He may be a guard because he's only 6'3", and he's just a very valuable guy. And when you start talking about Travis Hunter and all the big-name additions that this franchise made, this guy is quietly one of the most important ones, at least early in camp. It appears he will be.
Yeah, if you look at the entire season, not just look at right now, it's hard at this point to imagine him not playing a role somewhere at some point. You're going to have injuries. I don't know if he keeps this job that he's working at right now over Macari, but there's so many injuries, and he's so versatile that at some point he's going to matter a lot. He feels like a guy who may be playing well enough and may be good enough that when he gets that opportunity, it's not just an opportunity, it's a job.
I know they're missing him in Dallas this week because Tyler Guyton, their first-round pick last year, he couldn't handle the job, and so Chuma went in and played left tackle a year ago. And Guyton got hurt last week on the practice field, and now Edoga, who's a guy that they were relying on last year, is in Jacksonville, and Jags are glad to have him.
Hopefully to our benefit. John, when you were looking at some of the new players, maybe fans aren't familiar with, who's someone that's really stood out to you?
Well, I think people know about Kainani Brown. I mentioned him because I think he's so important as a piece. We talk about Travis Hunter. We know about Brian Thomas Jr. Think about last year when it was Brian Thomas Jr. at the end of the season. Parker Washington had emerged as the second guy. Brian, very quickly, who's the third guy? Can't remember, right? And I'm not knocking who it was. My point is, once you got past anybody, and Parker Washington's really probably a 3 or 4, there really wasn't a guy the defenses had to worry about. It looks like Kainani Brown, he had a really good practice, I think it was Monday, where he caught 3 or 4 passes and did things that look like they're going to translate. Trevor hit a deep ball to him right down here, about a 45-yard pass in situational. This guy looks like he's going to matter. I don't know if that means 1,100 yards. If defenses have to worry about him, and they're already worried about the other 2 guys, he could have some games where he sneaks up on people and has huge games.
Listen, if he's anywhere close to the numbers that you just mentioned, he's the most significant third receiver in franchise history. I mean, you have to go back to Willie Jackson when Jimmy and Keenan were on the field together to find a guy that was as dependable and could make big plays, and I think he's got that field-stretching ability. We've seen it out here that the Jaguars have long looked for, no matter who the head coach was, to have in the passing attack.
Yeah.
This guy, if Hunter steps up into the role that we expect at number 2 with Brian at number 1, Brown, I think he's got a chance to be the best third receiver this franchise has ever had.
And think about the one year in recent years where they've had something close to that kind of balance. And it was in 22 when you had Marvin Jones, Christian, and you had Zay Jones going. I think this group can be better than that group, but that group for a while had that thing where you weren't sure who to guard. All 3 of them could do it. This feels like a bunch that can do that if they can stay healthy and if they're what they're showing so far.
Absolutely. Have to remember he's on a 1-year prove-it deal as well, so he'll have that internal motivation to want to prove himself and get another long-term deal locked up. For me, I went to the defensive side of the ball. Jordan Lewis coming in from the Cowboys as well, just his leadership that we've seen immediately in the back end of the field. I think we put so much focus on, whether it's the linebackers to lead the defense. Obviously, I think you need someone in each section of the defense, whether it's Josh Hines-Allen or Trayvon up front, and then kind of the linebacker group with Foye Oluokun. But Jordan Lewis, to me, is certainly that in the secondary so far. He's played nickel, he's played outside. Where he will be, and this defense will kind of see when that comes together, when game time comes. But having that veteran presence and having kind of someone just as a coach on the field like we like to talk about, I think has already shown itself even in just a week of training camp.
Leadership can sometimes get overblown. He's showing it. And for all the things that you just said on the field, I heard that when the team was presented with the concept of Evan Ingram's comments, right, that he was the first one to stand up and say, that isn't us, right? He's in here from Dallas. He is the leader in that secondary, clearly, from a veteran perspective. And I was encouraged to hear, even though I love Evan Ingram, I was encouraged to hear that he stood up and pushed back to his teammates.
Yeah, Jordan Lewis gets his hand on the football, and he's made plays. I don't want to say every practice. We've had, 6 or 7 so far. At least 4 or 5 times he's defense passes or he's mattered. I almost hesitate to sit here. We're all talking about free agents. Everybody knows how I feel about free agency. And everybody knows what happened last year when free agency was sort of a washout. But don't all 3 of these guys have this feel in training camp of, I don't know if they're going to be Pro Bowlers. I don't know if they're going to be, guys that we remember in 10 years. But don't they all feel like they're going to matter and be able to contribute? If they get that sort of production and reliability out of free agency, then this team can take steps.
Maybe they're going to get the same sort of production that they got in 2022, which helped push this team into a position at the end of the year to make a playoff run.
Nice to see some mentorship from him as well. I've seen with Jarian Jones all the time. Travis Hunter talks about the influence kind of working with him. So not only, bringing in his perspective, but helping those around him, which bringing everybody up.
I think there's something to playing in Dallas, too, where the spotlight is so bright all the time.
No matter what.
And he was a guy they really valued in that secondary. He knows what it's like to play on a big stage, and a lot of these young guys don't. So there's something he really adds.
He's also a guy who's had to he's had to earn his way here. He was not necessarily an elite player or a premium draft pick when he came out. So he has had to earn his way into this position. From listening to him a couple of times when he's talked, it seems like he's really enjoying and valuing being sort of that veteran that guys can look up to. He's probably looked forward to that role, knows this role doesn't last forever in this league, so you take advantage of it, and I think he's embracing that.
We're going to talk about the specific position groups throughout the rest of training camp, and coming up next, we're going to talk about the offensive line and tell you what you need to know. Sudeth Moving and Storage is Florida's most trusted and dependable moving company. Sudeth, proud to be the official moving company of the Jacksonville Jaguars. To get a guaranteed quote, visit sudeth.com/Jacksonville. Also, Jags fans, if you want customized Jaguars furniture for your home, check out zipchair.com to browse all the customizable options. Zipchair is furniture for fans. We are finally back out here at training camp. Excited to see these guys in action. So we're going to start by going through all of the position groups throughout Jags A.M. And we're going to start off with the offensive line. It always starts in the trenches, so why not start talking there? We heard from Robert Hainsey earlier this week, who's we presume will be the center. I don't know if we can presume many of the positions because, as we've just discussed, there's a lot of competition throughout the line, but we presume he'll be the starting center. He talked a little bit about, yes, there are injuries, there are people moving around, but most of this is just about consistency, John, and kind of getting used to who you're working with and all pulling the right way.
It takes time, and I think this will be a process that you watch as training camp goes on. I anticipate Robert Hainsey starting. I would also anticipate Anton being on the right side and Walker a little bit on the left, although there's going to be competition there. It's encouraging that we've seen it so far. I thought on Monday and Tuesday it looked closer to like you want it to look than maybe I expected it too early. Look, this is the storyline. We're not going to know during preseason if Trevor's there. We may not even know about the secondary. We can get a good idea how the offensive line is going to be. So it's really the preseason storyline to me in terms of you are also seeing competition, Brian.
Well, he's such a critical component of this offensive line, Kai, because he was peppered with questions about Liam Cohen, about the running game in Tampa that improved so dramatically last year and really tilted their fortunes towards success, and they were a playoff team. So he understands what the offense is, what the expectation of the quarterback is, and how the offensive line has to function in order for the running game to be as good as they were in Tampa last year. So I agree with you. I think I'm not sure that he specifically was that important of a storyline, or at least we didn't talk about him in those terms throughout the spring, but it's becoming clear that if Trevor is going to get where he is going to get to, that guy's going to have a lot to say about it.
Yeah, the center's got to be the voice, and he's the voice.
You mentioned Anton Harrison, who this is his third season. Rookie season looked good. Last year, a little bit of regression there. Head coach Liam Cohen talked earlier this week about their expectations for him.
Definitely, for the first few, I've been very pleased with Anton, and we've mentioned that to him, and I asked him the other day in the hall. I said, hey, is this going to be every day? Is this how it's going to be every single day? And he was very adamantly yes, and so and that's what we have seen. So for him to take a step in the right direction in our eyes, for sure, I think is only going to help us moving forward because he's so talented, and when he plays locked in, he plays with great effort, and he strains through the echo of the whistle, good things typically happen.
Talent is certainly there. Obviously, last year trying in many ways for many of us. So I don't know if there was that going on, but when they're talking to him about effort and they're seeing that now, that's buy-in as far as I'm concerned.
Well, I just think Liam nailed it with the locked in, right? I know there were a couple of plays on the practice field the other day where he wasn't as locked in as he had been, and it was pointed out to me that That's it with him. That's what they've been driving him towards. That's why they had Chuma brought in to push him there, to teach him about focusing from the first part of the whistle to the second whistle, right?